First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to you, Akim, and you, Aqua, to believe in all sincerity. So you see here on your screen, this is an article entitled New Biblical Fears as Declassified UFO Files Reveal Angels in Flight. And I'm going to read this article. Play a video, and Lord willing, get some precepts. Lord willing, this will be edifying. But it says here more. I'm a pastor who attended a secret UFO disclosure meeting. We saw images of translucent beings that chilled me to the bone. I believe that's another article, but I wanted to read that. It says here, the Trump administration released a fresh wave of UFO files last week, including never-before-seen footage of mysterious objects, somehow compared to entities in the Bible. Okay? The latest batch in the White House push for UFO disclosure arrived Friday, including 46 videos Congress has been demanding the Pentagon release for months. Some of the clearest footage involved two incidents where U.S. satellites captured oddly shaped UFOs flying over undisclosed bodies of water for several minutes. One of those videos appeared to show a small figure in flight that some have claimed looks like a person with wings, moving through the air as protrusions from its upper body moved back and forth. Out of all the newly released files, this one is easily the wildest. The object almost appears humanoid with visible arms and legs, one person said. The UFO looks almost like an angel. Pretty amazing video, another commentator added on social media. The other new UFO incident followed a strange object for over 10 minutes flying over water. However, as the U.S. military satellite zoomed in, the object appeared to have several protrusions or tentacles on all sides. It was the latest strangely shaped object that somewhat resembled a biblical object known as the cherubim, the multi-faced winged angelic beings described in the Bible's book of Ezekiel.
Before we were using Jobber, we had a lot of issues with timesheets, scheduling, and...
So continuing on, I just wanted to show that that video. It says here, the second batch of UFO files released by the Pentagon included a video which showed a UFO resembling the biblical object known as the cherubim. It says the shape shifting, the sensor struggling to lock on, the object behaving unlike anything familiar. It triggers that this shouldn't exist feeling, one social media user said. The newly declassified video was the second time a UFO was compared to the biblical vehicle described as having wheels within wheels this month. Okay, and that's in Ezekiel 1:16. Let's just go ahead and get that. It says, the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they four had one likeness, and the appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. Okay. Now, when you go up to the 4th verse, it says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. And it says, a great cloud. And the scriptures speak about the chariots, coming out of the clouds, or Yahweh Shai is going to come in the clouds. Those are talking about those UFOs, those chariots. Okay, and the whirlwind is speaking about that it's spinning. Okay, and they've shown that in many movies. They've shown that in many different shows where a UFO spins. Okay, because one thing about the UFOs, which are truly the chariots, those are the vehicles of Yahweh Bashim Yahshua and the angels. One thing about the UFOs is that they come in many different sizes and colors. Very different. Okay, and there's been reports of them that they can actually dive into the water and not make a splash, or they can shoot out the water, or the sea. Okay, and make no waves. They can travel fast, and they seem to zig across the sky without having to turn. All right, there's different shapes. They can materialize, dematerialize. Okay, they have their different shapes, sizes. They have colors. Okay, emanating from them. Okay, but it says here, Ezekiel describes a chariot. Okay, and like we just read in the 16th verse, it says appearance as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. All right, and they actually in the article show a drawing, which I'll get to, but I just wanted to just paint the picture that Ezekiel wrote about this. Okay, and these devils are now starting to disclose this because there's too many sightings, there's too many videos, they can't hide it. And that's one thing. The scriptures say that there's nothing hidden that shall not be uncovered. Okay, so these things are being revealed in these latter days. All right, it says, I'm reading again, and I looked and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, and it says a great cloud. Let's talk about that chariot. It's coming out the clouds like this. This is what Ezekiel's describing. All right, and I'll probably put that as a thumbnail. All right, but it says here, let's see. It says, and a whirlwind came out of the north, a gray cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Okay, so there was a fire. Okay, I guess under that chariot, and it had lights. This is what Ezekiel saw. You see the amber color. You see, it looks like there's a fire around it. Okay, it's coming in the clouds. This is what Ezekiel saw, a wheel within a wheel. All right. It says, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. Okay, this is describing the angels. They had faces, wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. And they had hands, and they had the hands of a man under their wings on the 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Okay, let's go back here because it says here. Read this again. The newly declassified video was the second time a UFO was compared to the biblical vehicle described as having wheels within wheels this month. That's Ezekiel 1:16. Another video from the first batch of UFO files released on May 8th revealed footage of an 8-pointed star darting through the darkness with uneven shape-shifting arms. This is that 8-pointed star, if you will. It says, Texas pastor Josh Hoverton said that on X that the eight-pointed object resembled the strange heavenly structures described in the book of Ezekiel, which recounted glowing entities and the mysterious wheels moving beside the Most High's throne chariot without turning. What I'm trying to point out is the very possible overlap between a biblical cosmology and some of the things you're seeing on your timeline, Howerton shared. The new video was reported by the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command in 2024. It is America's largest military unit and is responsible for all operations across the Pacific Ocean, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, the alleged angel sighting took place on June 1st, 2020, when a military satellite used by the U.S. Central Command captured the object in flight. CENTCOM is responsible for U.S. military operations in the Middle East and parts of Central Asia and Africa. As UFO disclosure continues, influential Christian leaders have warned that the growing number of extraterrestrial sightings linked to the Bible could lead to a dark prophecy known as the Great Deception. Salakia, that was got ads. Okay, it says Pastor Joseph Zupetz and evangelist Tony Merkel told the Daily Mail prior to UFO disclosure that they were invited to a private meeting in remote Tennessee in February. At the meeting, intelligence insiders and former military personnel discussed the idea that the identified objects could be interdimensional beings or advanced technology. However, they added that the organizers repeatedly compared disclosure to the biblical end times prophecy some Christians believe signals a powerful spiritual crisis before the return of Yahushua. The great lie in this is that these interdimensional entities, the actual UFOs, are very kind of supposed alien or not malevolent, Zuppes claimed, adding that there was a growing belief amongst Christians that these beings were interdimensional evil spirits, fallen angels, or demons. And so that's what they do. All right, that's what Esau, they blaspheme the angels. This is Revelation 13:6, and he opened his mouth and blasphemed against the Most High, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And that's what Esau does, saying that the angels are demons, fallen angels. It's retarded. Okay, let's see if I can get that. Let's see. What's in Revelation? There's another scripture. What's that? There's another scripture. I'm not too sure how it's worded. I want to say it's in Revelation. Okay. All right, so we'll go back. It says, you're going. Pastor Perry Stone, a well known evangelist who was told about these secret meetings, said last month, you're going to have people who are going to say if there are galaxies and there are allegedly other creatures in the galaxies, then whole creation story is a myth. You're going to have people that's going to apostatize and turn from Christian faith because they have no answer for what they're about to hear, he continued. And so the truth, and the truth of the matter is that the prophets are here to tell you that really what they're seeing is the angels, and those UFOs are chariots, and the angels they travel in those chariots. This is Matthew 26:64. How shall I say it unto him, thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall you see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, which is the right side of the Most High, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Okay.
Strong's G 3507. Nephele. Nephele.
It says, used of the cloud which led the Israelites in the wilderness. The glory of Yahweh. It says, Exodus 40 and 34, then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Now, how could the cloud cover the congregation and glory enter the tabernacle? That's talking about the UFO that went over the tabernacle and lit up the tabernacle with the lights underneath. Okay? That's that cloud. Yahweh Shai is coming in those clouds. Like this. Okay? The light, as you see at the bottom, it filled up the tabernacle. The Lord cometh with clouds. It says, and Moses was able to enter into the tent of the congregation because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Yeah, it was too great of a sight for him to enter into the tabernacle. And when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. Now, whenever the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the people of Israel would set out on their journey following it. Right. So this is what they followed in the wilderness. They followed that cloud, which was a chariot. Okay. So they're blaspheming right here, saying that people are going to turn from the faith because they don't have no answers. We have answers. Okay, but if the cloud were not taken up, then the journey not until the day that it was taken up. So basically, whenever the cloud moved, they moved. Okay, if the cloud stood still, which the chariot stood still, that they would stay still. For the cloud of Yahweh was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. Okay, so the Israelites were protected by a UFO. Okay. It also tells you that in what? 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter. Moreover, brethren, I will not that ye should be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Hamashiach Yahushai. So Yahushai was in that chariot. Okay. Check this out. This is back in Ezekiel 1 and 17. Well, sorry, 16. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they four had one likeness, and the appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Because, okay, a wheel in the middle of a wheel. And they actually have a picture here of what they think, what they saw, all right, in the sky. Okay, and we prophesy in part because I'm not going to say what they saw because we can barely see through these videos, all right? But, okay, we do know about the chariots. That's a fact. We do know. We do know they come in many different sizes and colors. Now read this. Now check this out. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. 18. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, those eyes, that's the windows of the chariots. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whatsoever the spirit was to go, they went thither, was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. So they were basically those angels, which are those living creatures, were synced with the UFOs. When they moved, they went. You see, there was synchronization. All right, same thing with the Israelites. So when the chariots went, they were to go. All right. When those went, these went. And when those stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Okay, and that's power. And you can read this chapter. All right. And so, I just wanted to bring this out. Officials who documented the videos cautioned that the footage description was provided for informational purposes only and should not be interpreted as proof of the object's nature or origin. The UFO files were made public months after President Trump ordered the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to declassify government records related to UFOs and alleged extraterrestrial activity. Tennessee Representative Tim Burchett, who has long been advocating for disclosure, said on X, "Remember, the feds told us these files didn't exist, and Donald Trump stood up to the deep state. The first drop will be big, but in comparison to what is coming, they will be drop in the bucket. I would say, holy crap is coming." And that's this right here. Drop in the bucket. That's a line in the book of Isaiah, speaking about the heathen. Okay. And remember, Trump said that he didn't think that he was going to go to heaven, all right? Because he knows he's a heathen. He knows. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. Okay, 17, all nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. So the nations, they're nothing. They're vanity. Okay, they were created in vain. The true, what matters is the Israelites. Okay, but the nations, as you see in the 15th verse, are as a drop of a bucket. A drop of a bucket is nothing. If the bucket's full of water and the bucket, a drop falls from the bucket, that's nothing. So I found it interesting that he said that. Okay, what's coming, the first drop of declassified files is nothing. He says, but what is coming will be a drop in the bucket. I would say, holy crap is coming. All right, now, why are they using biblical references? Because they know. Psalms 104:3, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angel spirits, his ministers a flaming fire. And until you lay out the rafters of your home in the rain clouds, you make clouds your chariot, you ride upon the wings of the wind. Okay? rides upon them on the clouds, the chariots in the clouds. This is what it's talking about. This is what they're seeing, and they're speaking on it. We know it, okay? We know what they're talking about. Okay. They've been seen over undisclosed bodies of water. Psalm 68:17, the chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. You see that? The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The angels are in those UFOs, man. Those UFOs are chariots in the scriptures.
Strong's H7393, Rachev.
Let's say here. Strong's definition, by extension, a cavalry. A rider. Kidding me? Calvary most commonly refers to the biblical site near Jerusalem where Yahushua was crucified. Figurative meaning, let's see. What's up with this? They changed their... Let's look up this word and then I'll go back. Bear with me. I'm looking up this word Calvary. Calvary etymology. Okay. Wait, excuse me. Cavalry, that's why. That's why I'm not getting the definition. Excuse me. Cavalry. Not Calvary. Definitely two different words. Cavalry. Horsemen. It shares common root with cavalier and chivalry, tracing back to the concept of a mounted soldier. You see that? Mounted soldier. That's who's all in those UFOs. Those are angels. That's what they're seeing. That's what Ezekiel saw. He was describing them to the best that he could. Just like we are. Cavalry refers to military units composed of troops who serve on horseback. Traditionally, they were the fastest and most adaptable combat arm on the battlefield, used for flanking, screening, or surprise attacks. Horse-mounted cavalry was largely been replaced by armor or mechanized cavalry. Okay. So yeah, a mounted soldier. All right. Cavalry. Excuse me. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, right? Even thousands of angels. Those are soldiers in those mounted in those chariots. Okay, what'd he say? What'd he say? Just kidding. But it says here, I would say, holy crap is coming. All right. Let's read this. Jeremiah 4:13. Behold, he shall come as clouds, and his chariots shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Right? We read horsemen. Okay. Back then, they were the quickest way, to flank. All right, or a surprise attack. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled. When them chariots appear, it's curtains. It's curtains for Esau. When they see this, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. 100%. Okay? They're already seeing it. They already know they're spoiled. That's what he say. Holy crap is coming. More UFO files expected to be released by the Pentagon, but an exact date for the third release has not been announced. Right. Because, it's over for you. Isaiah 24:6. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, they that dwell therein. There's another one, so excuse me. There's another one, excuse me. Give Howard. D. If I can't find it, I'm going to go ahead and end it out. Let's see. I'm not too sure where that scripture is. Curse that goeth forth, I want to say. Curse that goeth forth. Okay la chingada, ya la chingada. Zechariah 5:3. All praise Yahweh Shem Shai. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that selleth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. And I will bring it forth, saith Yahweh of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and it shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Excuse me. Let's go to the top. The flying scroll, Zechariah 5. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. A UFO. Okay? Then he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that selleth shall be cut off as on this side according to it. Everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. And it's going to enter into the house of the thief, which is Esau, Edom. Okay? And these devils know. Okay? They know, that it's coming for them. All right? They know. Okay? They know. It's in the scriptures. Okay? The chariots, the angels, the Lord's coming in those clouds. Lord willing, you're edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokak Kodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to you, Akim and you, Aqua, that believe in all sincerity. Shalom.